over the course of the Fast and Furious franchise, there has been many memorable villains. So today, let's rank all the villains from worst to best. Hey everybody, my name's Justin here. I try to watch everything that hits theaters and on streaming services. If you guys are like me, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below and click that bell notification for more up and coming content. Leave your list down below. Who is your favorite villain in the Fast and Furious franchise? So coming in last place is Johnny Tran. It took a while for the villain of the Fast and Furious film to actually become a villain within the story, the antagonist of the first film. There are some moments where you kind of see like development for this character, but it's not really well written to the point where he's even memorable. As we really focus on Dom and Brian in the beginning of the film, and we have the racing, and then we have all the other moments really focused around Brian. So adding in an antagonist to already a solid film doesn't really do much to write this character out, give it any memorable moments. It really feels like a villain is not needed in here, so it sits at number 12. Coming in at number 11 is Hernan Reyes. Hernan Reyes is like the classic villain in a heist movie. You have all the qualities to him. He's rich, he's corrupt, everything that you would expect from a villain in this kind of film is there. The problem is that he's not fleshed out, and he doesn't have any memorable sequences. The dialogue for this character, the exploration of the character is pretty weak because we really do focus a lot on Hobbs. As he comes in, he's just forcing his way into the film, and it's not really given a chance for Hernan Reyes to feel very sinister, have that urgency. We have the cast trying to steal all of the money. We don't understand, we don't really feel that corruption. We do understand that he's very rich, but having Hobbs in there, it's Hobbs against the family. And you have Hernan Reyes there in the middle. He's stuck. He doesn't really know what to do. Doesn't really have any advantage throughout the film. Coming at number 10 is Braga. They did some interesting things with this character as we have a different identity for him throughout the film. And both identities that we get for this character aren't the best thing about Fast and Furious, the fourth film. So when we have him acting as like this middle person to eventually himself, and when we have all of that in here, both sides of the story for Braga are not compelling. The performances too, you just don't feel like that sinister vibe from this villain. He's just kind of one note at best. He doesn't really challenge Dom and Brian within this film, as we do see a lot of cool chase sequences and a setup for Braga, but they don't deliver on that for Braga, as he becomes a really just kind of boring villain. Doesn't have any qualities to him, doesn't have development to make him a menacing villain or someone that you feel like there's a lot of urgency for. So that's one of the reasons also I don't really care for much for Fast and the Furious, is because of that villain and how one note and dull this character is. Coming in at number 9 is Takashi. It takes a while for this villain to kind of come into play in all of the film. It doesn't feel like your big bad villain compared to the other films. It's just a high school bully that's very good at drifting and is jealous of Sean coming into the film and trying to one-up him and steal his girl. So the character himself is just kind of like your classic school bully. Really don't do much other than that within the film. But even when they offer that, it's just kind of there. And we're still focused a lot on the drifting and Han and all of that relationship as well. So we see the anger for this character. We see just kind of him building up. And there's like, he's a wild card throughout the film. Not the best villain, one that doesn't have the most compelling story throughout. So he just kind of sits here at the bottom. Coming in at number 8 is Jakande. So we get two villains in Furious 7. We get Deckard Shaw, and then we also get Jakande. And the problem with this villain is very similar to other villains, is that there's a lot going on and it just kind of feels like thrown in the background. We have all of the emotions surrounding Paul Walker's death in the film, and Deckard Shaw just running through everything. So we have this storyline with God's Eye that I really have not cared about. And so when we have this villain, it's very forgettable. This is probably the villain that I've cared the least about. It's not the worst villain, but also the villain that I can't remember much about. Even when I watch Furious 7, the moments that we have him in the film and then we revisit that later throughout the film, I just forget that he was even part of the film. So the character and the story is easily the weakest part of Furious 7. And so having Deckard Shaw, who's just one-man wrecking crew, and then we have Jakande, who's looking for God's eye and trying to utilize all of that, it doesn't really mesh well with what Deckard is trying to do. And then we have this other villain that doesn't have the best story in the first place, really over the top performance as well. It just does not work in this film when you wanting to have this kind of send off for Brian. You have Deckard, who's killed Han, and then there's all that emotion there and anger and Dom against Deckard. That's so cool. But then you have this villain in the middle of all of it that just does not work. Coming in at number 7 is Owen Shaw. This was like the first time where our villain was a big deal. The other villains just felt very street level, and now this villain's got like this big agenda and terrorizing the city and the family as well, and everybody's got to get together. This was like the big turning point for the franchise. After Fast 5 is when we get everybody together and we have to kind of take down these bad guys and get rid of all the technology and everything. So Owen Shaw, really fun villain in the Fast and Furious 6 film. Very intimidating, very sinister. I like how he is able to control his small group that he has that really mirrors Dom's family throughout, but he's great at driving. All of the moments that we kind of see glimpses of him as they're driving, you feel that urgency. I feel like that was lacking for some of the villains previously in the Fast and Furious films, but here with Owen Shaw and all that destruction that he causes and all these big action scenes, it's a big changing for the franchise as we get a villain that's really testing the group and their abilities and all of that, and what he's able to do in the film puts him pretty high on the list. But I also like the acting in here as well, what he is trying to accomplish and all of that. It's a really fun villain. Coming at number 6 is Brixton. Idris Elba is the villain for Hobbs and Shaw, and he's full of robotic upgrades. I loved him in here. It's so fun. It really embraces that campy tone throughout this film. We have Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham just playing off of each other. And here's Idris Elba really kind of throwing off that tone and giving it that more serious look at this villain. But also at times it's campy. It's fun. It works for this film. He's a killing machine. You feel like he can't be stopped and gives it that urgency throughout the film. Idris Elba has a blast in this film as Brixton. There are some moments that kind of undermine the villain at the end of the film, but nonetheless, the villain is explored well, has some unique abilities, and is something different in the franchise. Coming in at number 5 is Carter Verone. Every scene that Carter is in, I feel that this guy is very intimidating. He's not the biggest villain in the Fast and Furious franchise, but he makes every scene work. Every scene, if he's interacting with Eva Mendes or Brian or Roman, even the characters in here don't know how to kind of navigate their relationship with him. It's like it's like walking on eggshells with this character, and I loved every moment with Carter Verone. The performance is really good, really intimidating, and I loved how the characters were fearful of this villain. And so the way that they were able to make a small villain feel much bigger and give a really creepy performance in here makes this villain work. Then that scene with putting the rat on the guy's belly, just right there, you understand that he means business. Every single scene, they make it work. They make this character intimidating and urgent. That's one of the best things about Too Fast, Too Furious. Coming at number 4 is Jakob Toretto. Now that he is a hero in the film, the time of him being a villain in F9 did work. There was that anger and jealousy built up for this character. We see that explored nicely through flashbacks with his brother, Dom. But now that we get him as this big villain in the franchise, he's doing his own thing. He's making every everything work, and he's really intimidating. He's big. John Cena is massive in this film. You really feel that he can just take down Dom, like be one of the persons that can do it. But he's also great at driving because he grew up around Dom and his father. So he's just that perfect balance of someone that knows Dom's style and how he can get underneath his skin, but also doing his own thing, being intimidating, big, and just bossing everybody around. I love him more as the good guy. Really change of character, really embracing those jokes in Fast X. But here, as a villain in F9, I thought it was really good and added a lot of depth to the Toretto family, and then also all those flashbacks really worked for this character. Coming in at third place is Cipher. Cipher really grew on me as we see a lot more of her. We saw her in The Fate of the Furious and bit in F9 and Fast X as well. So it's a character that has been around now for quite some time. But in the first film, Fate of the Furious, that she was in, what she did to Dom is what a lot of the other villains have never really accomplished. She got something done and really affected him as she killed Alina in the film, which is big. And she has no remorse whatsoever. She is just tearing this family apart, but also being very strategic about it. She is a smart villain. She knows exactly what to do. She knows what to get done. She knows how to just navigate everything and challenge the family. So I like how she's not getting involved with like these big action scenes, for like behind the scenes, controlling everything and getting stuff and getting things done. That's what I like about Cipher. I don't really care much for her in The Fate of the Furious, but when we saw her in F9 and then also in Fast X, I understand what this character is going through and how they've built her up throughout the film, and we see how strong she is and very smart as well. She knows what to do. She knows how to get it done, and I love Cipher in the Fast and Furious franchise. Coming in second place is Dante. Jason Momoa is the best thing about Fast X. He is so fun in here. I love the revenge style for this character. And he doesn't just want to kill Dom. He wants to make him suffer. And that's a unique look at a villain that's trying to get things done. And all of the big action scenes, what he's able to do, he brings that energy to the film that was been missing from previous Fast and Furious entries. So Dante in here, the connection to Fast 5, we see that personal moments for him, that development for these characters, and how it's all kind of coming forth in Fast X. So there's the motivation behind this villain, and it's not just one note. There's a lot to explore about this character, and Jason Momoa really brings this character to life. It's a lot of fun. The jokes work, but you still feel he's very intimidating and sinister and absolutely wild within the film. I love Jason Momoa's performance, and I can't wait to see him in the upcoming Fast and Furious films, hopefully Fast 11 and 12 as well. But the villain, very different from what we got, and I really love that. But coming in at number one is Deckard Shaw. Deckard Shaw is a one-man wrecking crew. He doesn't need anybody's help. He knows what to do. He can get it done. And he killed Han, and he can feel like he can kill anybody else. And still to this day, you feel like he could just snap and become another villain in the upcoming films. But I love that he works with this team. But as his time as a villain in Furious 7, I love how quick the character was, how he was able to implement himself into other storylines, and he was there. He fought against Dom many times, and those are some really good action scenes. He's great at driving. He wants to avenge his brother's death. So there's that personal moments for him as well. But he's very confident. He's cocky, he's confident, he's able to bring this family down in very emotional ways. The character continues to be an awesome thing in the franchise. So there you guys have it, all 12 Fast and Furious villains ranked worst to best. How would you rank them? Let me know in the comment section down below, and stay tuned for more up and coming content like this. My name is Justin Watches Movies, and you guys stay classy, YouTube.